Good morning and welcome to Awesome Women with Style. My name's Carol Hanson and I inspire women who have a wardrobe full of clothes but nothing to wear. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to shop online and not be disappointed. So what I'm going to do is talk through the things that you can consider when shopping online, and this applies to both new and to buying pre-loved or second-hand clothes. I'm going to talk to you about the different types of online shopping as well. So where you can shop and the different types of shopping sites, and give you just a really good overview. I'm not going to be covering off the ones that most people consider are that they know about, like eBay and places like that. I'm hoping that I'm going to introduce you to some new retailers to consider, some new ideas to think about too. So if you're joining me live today, thank you so much. I am going via Restream, so I won't be able to see who is commenting if you're putting any comments in the chat, but I will come back and check and answer any questions later. If you're watching this on replay, if you can add hashtag replay, that'd be amazing. And again, if you put any comments or questions in the chat, then I'm more than happy to come back and answer them later. So let's, without further ado, talk about online shopping. Now, I know that online shopping can be extremely frustrating and disappointing as well. That things that you look at and you think, oh, that will be great, and then you get to actually trying it on. When you get the product home, it's nothing like the image that has appeared on screen. The colours might not be right, etc. Well, the first thing to say about that is don't set your expectations too high. I really do mean that. And there are some sites that are better than others for understanding what the product is looking like, and the quality of the photographs. And that again goes for new and also for pre-loved. If you struggle to buy certain items in store, now maybe that is trousers or jeans, or maybe it's finding footwear that fits properly, you're going to find it even harder if you're buying online, unless you are buying a brand that you know, love and trust. It can just be so much more difficult, because particularly if you're buying something like jeans or trousers, where you might find yourself trying on lots of different pairs. It's going to be really frustrating to buy those online. So I would say don't even bother, unless, again, it's a brand that you trust and love, you know what works for you in terms of the sizing. With regard to returns, do not compromise on returns. I hear so many people saying that I shop online, I don't really like what comes back, but I can't be bothered to return it, or the returns process is just a pain. Well, a lot of companies have made it an awful lot easier now to return goods. And so I would say, please use the principles that we use for shopping anyway, in terms of really loving it, really knowing what it's going to work with, that it fits properly, that it's in a colour that suits you, and anything that sits outside that, I can bet your bottom dollar that that is just going to sit in your wardrobe until you decide to have a declutter. Know your size. Now, standard measurements don't really exist, do they? You know, UK 8 or 10 or 12, 14, 16, whatever, changes from brand to brand. So I would always say, check your measurements and see what the sizing guide says on the website. But the other thing to do is also to check measurements you might not always think about. And that is, for example, top lengths. Take a couple of your favorite tops, measure the length of them from the neckline down to the hemline, and where they sit on your body is probably where you feel most comfortable, and compare that against the dimensions on a site. Similarly with dress lengths, skirt lengths, trouser lengths, make sure that you know what works for you and what you really love. Because there's nothing more frustrating, me particularly, I hate tops that ride up and just feel that little bit too short for me. And there's nothing more frustrating than having looked at something online, really loved it, and not checked those measurements, bought it, and then finding that it's not right. Colours, this is one of the hardest things to get right online, and newer brands do it better than pre-loved brands. More about that in just a moment. But I would always say look at the description as well as the colour, and see what they're saying in the description. And if there's a discrepancy, particularly again if it's a pre-loved site, contact the seller, find out what colour it actually is. I've even asked for extra photographs to be sent to me before I go ahead and buy something, because the colour in the image just isn't what the colour of the description is, or I just can't make out what the colour is properly. Fabrics, understand, sorry, I'm just checking back into the to the comments. You just need to be with me here, people. I can't see who's commenting because I'm going through Restream. You're here, you should be picking up the live now, so hopefully you are, and you can see what's going on. So coming back to fabrics, understand what works for you, and within that, understand what fabrics you like and what fabrics you're not so keen on, because that, again, that's important. If you've got any real no-nos, and for me, wool is a real no-no. Any small amount of wool in clothing will set me off itching. It's really annoying. Again, if you've got any real no-nos, make sure you know what the fabric is on the item that you're looking at. If it just says blend or something like that, if you're buying second hand, go back and ask the question, because you don't want to be disappointed with the item and feel that it's just so annoying, it's itching you, or it just doesn't feel comfortable from that point of view. Returns, as I said before, a lot of people, I find, don't actually return products that they bought online, but they're not happy with them. They just sit in their wardrobe until they have a declutter. Check the returns process before you buy. And if it's a returns process that just doesn't work for you, then go back and look for different things on a different site. I mean, many brands are now making it a lot easier, even pre-loved brands, to return items. And when I talk later on about different pre-loved brands, different pre-loved websites, I will talk to you about the returns process, because some of them make it quite easy and others make it less so. And just finally, I mean, this is a no-brainer, but payment. If you're not completely sure about a brand, or it's you're buying off someone privately, then always go through something like PayPal. As I said, I know it's a no-brainer, and none of you would choose to do any different from that, but it's just always worth mentioning. As I said to you, just be aware in terms of shopping rules. Make sure it's in your size and it does fit as well. Is it flattering? Does it look good on you? Is it comfortable? Does it express who you are? Is it really you? And think too about what 3 items. This is one of the great things about shopping online, because you can actually play with this rather than thinking about it. If you're in a shop at a changing room, think about what 3 items in your wardrobe you can use to create an outfit with it. Because if you've got to go out and buy a complete new outfit, then you know, it's more of an investment, isn't it? And it needs more thought. And it may be that you're doing that, you want to use it as a building block for building new outfits, but think about that as well. And the bottom one is, do you really love it? And my final suggestion on this is, if you're not 100% sure, then put it in your basket, leave it overnight or even 48 hours and come back. And if you're still really keen on the item, then go back and take a look at it and pop it in your basket and hit the pay now button. Now, again, this is fairly obvious stuff, but I am just going to run through it anyway about how to search online. Don't use broad search terms. I've used example here of a red dress, which has got 3.5 billion billion views, or sorry, not billion views, search results on Google. I always put the country into the search so that you're looking for items where someone will ship to. I would also put a type of occasion into the search as well. So if we use our red dress for an example, if we say red evening dress UK, we've already narrowed it down to 168 million results. No problem to go through that lot. Put the style of dress in as well. Sorry, I've said the type of occasion, the style of dress as well. So a UK fishtail got me down to 1.8 million results. Putting the size into the search function, but again, just be aware that you may need to go up or down a size depending on the brand that you're buying. And again, I mean, this is so obvious. If you're looking for a particular brand, then make sure you do put that in the search as well. And as I said, it might all sound very obvious, but it does help you narrow down your criteria and saves the frustration of searching through endless pages of things that really aren't what you're looking for. Is sustainability important to you? And if it is, do your research on sustainability and the brand that you're considering buying. You can look at their website, which of course will look glowing and rosy and will have some great sustainability credentials, I'm sure. If you want to do an independent search, which I always recommend is a good idea, the first place to look at is Good On You. Good On You is both a website and an app as well. You can download the app. It was developed in Australia, but it does cover brands worldwide. Not only do they have a brand directory and give you effectively an audit of that brand, and they use the same classification, whatever the brand. It is pretty much up to date, and I would recommend it as a good starting point. You can also check Ethical Consumer. I believe you need to pay a subscription with Ethical Consumer, but it may well be worth doing that. You don't need to pay to use Good On You. And the other place to have a look is the ethical brand directory set up by Roberta Lee Styling. And that is more luxury end shopping and doesn't have an external audit, but she does give her honest opinions and views about different brands. If sustainability is important, consider buying pre-loved. The original item may not be ethical and sustainable, but what you are doing is saving something going to landfill. I would always say buy quality, not quantity. Again, it's not a guarantee of sustainability, but if it's a quality item that you really love, then you're going to get more wear from it and than you would for something that is possibly quite cheap. It's not well made, the fabric's not great, and after a couple of washes you're thinking, why on earth did I buy that? The other thing you've just got to be aware of within the fashion industry is particularly, I mean, it happens across all industries, but fashion, it seems particularly prevalent in, is to beware greenwashing. There is an awful lot out there which is claimed to be sustainable that when you dig underneath the surface really isn't that sustainable. And I'll use an example of recycled plastic bottles. Become quite a craze to use recycled plastic bottles in clothing. which sounds great, doesn't it? Because you're turning it from a plastic bottle that's been used once into something that you're going to keep and use for a long time. Yeah, well, the drawback is that very many plastic bottles are actually recycled plastic. So they are going through what's called a closed loop system and being recycled over and over again. So they're not using virgin materials to make more plastic. But if you recycle a plastic bottle and turn it into fabric, you can't then recycle it again. At the end of that life, that fabric has got no purpose. Now, I'm not saying it won't have in the future, because the speed of the technology to do stuff with recycling is really coming on. But at the moment, it's like a dead end. So although you might have got a lot more use out of it, you may have kept it, worn it 30 times or whatever, at the end of the day, it can't then be recycled. So just be aware of greenwashing. And again, if you look at stuff like ethical consumer and so on, or we'll give you some references to some other sites as well, they will give you some ideas on this. So it's always worth just digging beneath the hood, because you'll very often pay more for goods that are claimed to be sustainable. And what you don't want is to be paying more and find that it's not actually truly sustainable. Right, now I want to talk to you about different ideas for shopping online. And first of all, I'm going to talk to you about new shopping. And again, I said I'm not going to cover the sort of the standard platforms that you could look up and retailers that you could look up on your own and you're probably aware of. But what I want to do is just talk to you briefly about a curated platform called ShopStyle. It's a digital shopping platform which curates different items from different platforms. So you simply put in your search terms and you can get very specific about your search terms. And then if you click on an item, you won't get the details on ShopStyle. You'll be forwarded directly through to the retailer's website and be able to look at the item on there. So it is a good place to look and compare. It's a very extensive search function. It's good for higher quality and designer brands, but just be aware, having that much choice in front of you can also be a bit overwhelming as well, and it can be a little bit off-putting. Now I want to talk to you about a couple of sites that offer their own styling services. They use actual stylists and artificial intelligence to build up a profile of you. And there are two that are I'm going to talk about here. Thread.com is a UK-based service, and you complete a profile, quite an extensive profile, and within an hour you get an email from the stylist with a suggestion of items that you might like to buy based on your profile. There's no fee to pay to use the service. But if you decide to buy the items, then you click through and Thread will receive a commission from the retailers. So you're not paying for that. You're not paying any more for that. You are simply being directed to those retailers. And what they do is Thread collate the order and send it through to you. So you're only dealing with one company. It's not. So if you decide to buy from several different brands, you're still only dealing with Thread. So that makes it a lot easier for delivery and for returns. It's a convenient way to shop. You're not forced to make any decisions. It's not a subscription-based service where you have to take so many items a month, but it can lead to overconsumption. So I'd just be aware of that. But if you want some help on styling and you want just some quick answers, then that is one way of doing it. The other one that you can do is Stitch, and this is UK and US based service. And again, it uses actual stylists and AI, and you complete a profile. you pay a styling fee. So you pay £10 or $10 every time you take a shipment, and there's no request to take a shipment so many times, so you could just take one and then never use it again. If you decide to keep any of the items, that styling fee is then deducted from the goods that you're keeping. And if you keep all 5 items, because they'll only send you 5 at a time, there is a generous 20% discount on the order. You can set up regular fixes, as they call them, and you can pause the service. Returns are prepaid. It is convenient, but again, it encourages overconsumption. So I'd just be a little bit wary about something like that. And what I've found is, talking to different people who do use services like that, it does sometimes push them out of their comfort zone. So they are prepared to try something new. So just an option to consider. The next is to talk about clothing rental. And I'm only going to buzz through this really quickly, because I know that in the UK, we really are a little bit reluctant to do clothing rental for regular shopping. We're more likely to do it for occasion wear. But I just wanted to run through some options for you. You're not committing to purchase the clothes that you may not wear much, so there's a big benefit with that. The rental company takes care of the laundry. You don't have to deal with that. You can launder. So, for example, with Devout, you're keeping the products for a month, and they have a range of stuff on there, some of which you might want to launder if you're going to wear it multiple times. You can launder it, providing you follow their code of practice. But that said, any damage, whether it be laundry damage or whatever, is I'm going to cover secondhand online clothes shopping in just a moment. And sorry, I've just picked up a comment that's come up in the chat. And any damage is covered by the rental fee as well. So you've got some different options. You've got On Loan, which is a UK-based service. The Devout, which is £79 a month for 5 items, UK-based service. In the US, you've got Rent the Runway and Newly. And then in the Netherlands, because I know we've got someone here from the Netherlands, is Lena Fashion Library. So some different options for rental. Now let's talk about pre-loved or second-hand clothing shopping. So I'm going to go through these 6 websites very briefly for you. But basically, there are different options for online shopping in the UK. Again, I'm not going to cover the things like Depop and Vinted, because they're probably not our group's sort of target market area. But I'm going to cover some you've probably heard of. You've certainly heard me talking about Thrift Plus, but some you may not have heard of as well. And they tend to be, ones I've chosen tend to be at the slightly higher end of the market, as opposed to reselling fast fashion. So you've got Thrift Plus in the UK. You've got the Next Closet in Europe. Refashion is another UK site. ThreadUp and Poshmark are US sites, and Rebel is a German website but ships worldwide. So the benefits of shopping secondhand clothes are you extend the life of the clothes. As you see from this slide, 920,000 tons of clothes ends up in landfill, and it's just awful. You get some great bargains, and if you saw my post yesterday, you will have seen that Jill was showing off in her photo a gorgeous green bag that she bought, a Jaeger bag that she bought from Thrift Plus, and you get one-off pieces that other people aren't going to be wearing at the same time. The disadvantages or the cons is very often the quality of the photos and the description of the product. So again, I'm just going to run through very quickly, because I'm aware we've been on for a little while now, those 6 websites for you, and talk about what's good about them and what's the differences. So Thrift Plus offers designer and better end high street products. charities receive between 33 and 66% of all sale proceeds. And if you are donating clothes to thrift, then you can nominate a charity that you would like to receive your clothes. Receive the proceeds of your sale. And the reason I say 33 to 66 is because thrift will always donate 1/3 of the sales proceeds. They will offer you 1/3 of the sales proceeds, but you can choose to donate that as well. And then the other third goes to thrift for them to be able to run the business. With regard to the photography, I know that the imagery on the site isn't always that great. And as an ambassador for thrift, a brand ambassador, we were talking to them this week and they were showing us the new equipment that they bought in for doing photography. So I think the photography is definitely going to improve. They won't be able to do the entire back catalogue. The search and description, again, we were talking to thrift about this earlier in the week, and there are going to be improvements made because the search and description is a little bit too generalized and there's not enough information on there with regard to measurements as well. They do have a quality and authentication service. All the goods are sent to them and the goods are checked through before they're put on the site. Refashion has a mix, but it's slightly lower. It tends to be lower end products, and charities receive between 20 and 60% of the sales proceeds. Now that varies on the value of the sale. The photography is really good on refashion, and they use mannequins. They use a white backdrop. And if it's not on a mannequin, then the product is hung on hangers. The focus is also, because of the name is on refashion, it means that they also sell people's clothes where people have redesigned clothes as well. They've refashioned them. This is their higher end offer because this isn't, a hobbyist. This is more like a fashion designer that is repurposing clothes. They also offer free returns. Next one is the Next Closet. Now, I use this occasionally. It's actually based in Amsterdam, but they ship within Europe, and that does include Britain because it's geographic Europe rather than the EU itself. It's a peer-to-peer site, which means that people are either listing the products themselves or they are sending them to Next to list them. And they receive slightly less money as a result of that. I find that their photography, particularly if it's DIY photography where people are listing products, isn't always that great. And so again, I've been known to contact the sellers, which you can do through their site, and ask for more information about things. The only thing I would say is if you're buying stuff from them and it is on DIY, so someone's uploaded the products themselves, they've not used the premium service, and you can identify that on their site, you can't return those goods, which I think is slightly unfair, but you can resell them on their site. Rebel is a German site. They ship worldwide, but they if you are outside Germany and outside sort of local European countries, do check the shipping costs because they do get quite hefty. Another peer-to-peer site offering designer and higher quality goods. Commercial vendors can also sell on Rebel. They have a DIY or done for you service, and you can return goods as a buyer as well. And then just briefly to mention two sites in the US, Poshmark, which is another peer-to-peer site, also includes home decor and beauty products as well. They have seller lists. The seller lists and photographs the items, and the authentication is only done for luxury items. They have a social. They tried to build it into a social platform as well. So they have an online social element. They host posh parties. So, for example, if they were hosting a Nike party and you had Nike items that you wanted to sell, you could be included in those online parties. And finally, ThreadUp, which again is another peer-to-peer site. I love the fact that ThreadUp has children's clothes, it has maternity clothes, both of which I think are really great for pre-loved, because they're clothes that either kids are going to grow out of very quickly, or they're just not going to, they're just not going to get the wear from them. And with maternity, again, it's a short-term thing. So you may not be wanting maternity clothes. You may just have decided, you're not going to have any more children after this pregnancy. You can bid for items that have just arrived on the site. That they can put in a bid option. So obviously you're going to pay a premium because it has to be above the listing price. But if there's something that's on there that you desperately want, then you can go and bid for them. There's only a limited window that you can do that for. They also have an auto buy function, which means that basically, if someone else has put something in a cart, but they haven't actually completed the purchase, you can put something on auto buy, and if the person who's put it in the cart decides not to go ahead and it goes back in on sale, it doesn't actually go back on sale. It goes automatically to the auto buyer. And you will be charged for it. So you can't change your mind on that one. They do take delivery of the items. So you send the items to them and they curate, upload and photograph the items. So that's a very quick run through. I can see there's some questions on here and some points, which is great. I will come back and respond to them later. I'm sorry this is quite a long one, because I thought it was quite an important one to share with everyone, particularly as I've been talking a lot about buying pre-loved clothing recently, and I just wanted to share my comments on it and also to give you some ideas of where you could look other than just eBay or maybe even Facebook. So I hope that's helped, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.